Hey guys, it's Mike, and in this video, I'm going to give you 3 tips to draw the body with stronger poses. We'll also draw simple forms for the arms, and I'll show you how to connect it to the body. Alright, let's get started. The first tip to making stronger poses is we can add a curve to the body. So if you remember in the last video, the poses were standing up and down, kind of straight, kind of static, but to make them a little more interesting, we can add a curve to the center line like you can see here, and that already starts to make the pose, even though it's standing, a little more dynamic. The second tip that I want to give is thinking about angles. So this is the shoulder angle from shoulder to shoulder, and there's also another angle across the hips, and what you'll notice is these angles are opposite from each other. And that relates to the curve, so when the body curves in this way, the angle of the shoulder and hips will be opposite, and that helps to create a more interesting pose. Right now, let's start drawing the arms. So when I think about the arms, I like to think that the top of the shoulder comes out from the body on that angle that we just drew. So out, and then comes down towards the elbow. So what I want to do next is find the elbow. Just sweep down to the wrist. Now I'll draw a curve for the wrist. There's a little muscle in the armpit right there. I'm going to just draw in and one straight line. I'm just going to simplify it down to the inside of the elbow. I'm going to show how the elbow or the lower arm connects to the upper arm with a curve down to the wrist, and this line helps to show where the shoulder muscle and kind of the bicep area is. So here's some contour lines to show the form, and there we have our first arm. So again, I'm going to draw that angle of the shoulder and coming out from the body at that angle, top of the shoulder, come down towards the elbow, and the curve kind of looks like that, right? And so you'll see here that there's like muscle and there's the elbow bone, but for our purposes, I think you can just simplify it, just round it off, because here I just want to focus on the big shapes, right? The big building blocks of the arm, and not worry so much about the detail. You can add the detail later depending on how much, how realistic you want the muscles to look, but for here, just simple shapes. And I'm using that same principle for the hands, so I'm not too worried about every little finger, but one shape for the palm. I'm going to group each kind of finger group into a block like that. So I'm not drawing individual fingers because I think I'll study the fingers later, but I do want to see the main kind of pose of the hand. Do the same with the other hand. Just a few blocks to try and group the fingers together. Help me see how the fingers are posed. Some contour lines. And there we have our first pose. So that was two tips, right? The curve and angles. And now for the third tip, which is going to be you can add a twist to the body. So here I'm drawing the ribs, right? And the center line is kind of on the left side. And draw the sides. And I'm going to draw the hips. The center line, remember, it's like the zipper, right? Where the zipper is. And now all you have to do is connect these two lines and you'll have a twist. So this is a really key concept that you can start to think about that'll help you guys to create dynamic poses. It'll help in standing poses, and this is really the beginning of how you create dynamic poses for action scenes, for example. And this is another kind of key line, right? Like a landmark line, that kind of tank top line where the arm connects to the body. That helps me to see how dimensional the body is. So in this angle, her arm is raised, so her shoulder muscle, what I'm noticing is it's longer than the other side. Curves around to the inside of the elbow, and on the bottom from the armpit sweeps out to the elbow and up towards the wrist. So just kind of two lines, right? Out and up. And from the wrist, I'm just going to curve it back down, and there's this kind of muscle on the inside of the elbow, and I don't really know what that muscle is called, but maybe you do. You can leave a comment, let me know. And here I'm showing you guys, this is the bicep. A simple way to show the bicep and the shoulder muscle and how it connects to show things in dimension. And you can choose to, draw the form if you want, but a lot of times I just like to leave it out. Kind of makes things simple. And so for the other shoulder, what I'm going to do is kind of adjust the pose. And I'm trying to find the elbow, which is at the kind of in line with the bottom of the ribs, right? And so when you're studying and you're observing a pose, you don't have to draw it exactly. You can adjust it to make it kind of more interesting to you, or just begin to experiment with poses. Oh, maybe I'll thin her forearm a little bit so it gets a little thinner by the hand. And again, I'm just blocking the fingers. I think a hands video would be cool. And so these lines kind of show me where the legs connect to the hips. And that's the next video. Legs. Can't skip leg day, right? All right, so I'll do one more pose just to show a different angle. This is from the back. And so I'm going to draw that crunch on the left side. Draw the upper body, the ribs, down to the hips. This is the waistline at the back. And you can see these opposing angles already, right? The waistline, that kind of other line above it, the bottom of the ribs, right? They're opposing angles. And you can see there's a curve to her spine. And so, I mean, there is a subtle twist too, but these three things, right? The curve, the opposing angles, you can definitely see it across the shoulder and her hips, right? And the twist help to create this very dynamic standing pose. And so drawing the arm, remember coming out from the body at that shoulder angle down to the elbow. Around the elbow, it's a little wider, remember? So wider, come down to the wrist on both sides. Sometimes you can draw the elbow like that, but for today, I'm just going to draw it with a curve. Helps me to kind of see where the forearm connects to the upper arm, right? And these contour lines help me to see the dimension. And then, yeah, let's block out some simple shapes and group these finger parts. I mean, maybe a circle for the elbow. So this is where the shoulder and the kind of the back is where the tricep muscle is. That's kind of where they connect. A simple way to show it and visualize it. This shoulder is very long and comes out and reaches out towards the elbow, whereas the other side is a lot more angled as it kind of hangs down across her body. So we have another muscle in the armpit. Not sure what that's called. Pectoralis, maybe? So from her armpit, sweeps to the elbow. Remember, find the elbow and then, oh, this is kind of hard. From the elbow to the wrist. And then round off the wrist and bring it back towards the elbow. Another curve to kind of separate those parts, right? And this is where the shoulder muscle and the kind of the tricep area, how they break up, or how I visualize it. And then we're gonna just draw in some rough shapes for the hands, and this pose will be done. And so the last thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is how to practice. Like, what are the things that you can do to get better at drawing figures, right? To learn how to draw your own characters. So one thing you can do is you can take photos like we've been doing, visit Lalunatique's website, do some draw overs. But if you're not able to do draw overs like that, what you can do is practice your observational skills. So using your pen and paper, you can look at the photo reference and then take each body part one at a time and think about the angle of it, which way is it facing, and draw it in the simplest way possible. And just like I've been showing you in this video and previous videos, practice connecting these parts together and use the landmarks that I've been showing you, right? Like ribs and how it connects to the hips, the waistline, how the center line maybe twists to create a more dynamic pose. You can think about the line that connects the arms to the body and how it gives you dimension. So as you practice a pose and you draw these things over and over, it becomes like second nature. It really does. And after a while, it'll be automatic for you. And so I hope this gives you guys an idea of how you can practice. You can start thinking about the forms, especially the body and the arms and the head. All right, so next week, I think we're gonna do legs. It'll be leg day. And that'll wrap up, not really wrap up, but it'll give us the full figure. Well, besides the feet and the hands, and we'll do that next. And I'll start showing you guys how to create better gestures and more dynamic poses, and bring what I hope to be, elegance to to your poses, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.